internment has been going on for a long time before that, right back into the early 19th century. We had hoped to have an author here. Unfortunately, couldn't make it due to work commitments. Who was going to focus in on internment 1920 and so forth. Just unfortunately couldn't make it. That's the way it turned out with his work. But we have I'm sure you will agree, one of the best informed panels that you're going to get. Every one of them has experienced different forms of internment. And indeed, Kevin and Francie has actually went through what was called the hooded men, torture, tactics used by Britain at the start of the internment, 1971. Angela's here, is going to give us sort of an idea on what it's like for women internees and just generally internment in Armagh and so forth. Stephen Murney's here. He's going to give us an update on internment at the present day. Stephen was interned for about 14 months using the tactic of remand, and Stephen will fill us in on sort of how life was like for him and how he ended up in jail and whatever. So we're going to start off with Francie. And Francie will give us his story as far as...
I'll give you a story. The first thing I do, I want to ask you all a question. Anybody here remember what Sellafield was called prior to its present name?
Winscale or Win?
How many do it? Just put your hand up, anybody knows it. 1, 2, 2. 2 people know there's a name change. Why did it change Winscale to Sellafield? Because it became a bad name because of the leak. The Brits have done that all down. If they change the name, it makes it right. It sanitises it as far as they're concerned. They've done the same with the British royal family in 1913. They changed the name from a German name, which I can't pronounce, to the House of Windsor. In the north here we had the Special Powers Act. We don't have the Special Powers Act now. We have the Anti-Internment, and we have the Anti-Terrorism Act, which was equally as brutal in every way they have. And they've done this all down their history. This man went to sleep one night as an internee, waking up the following day as a detainee. He was no longer an internee, he was a detainee. He also went to sleep one night in Long Cash and waking up the following morning in Her Majesty's Prison in Maze. This is sanitising it. During that time, they twisted from internment to detainee because they didn't like the word internment, the word against them on the word internment, so they changed it to detainee. That didn't work for them, so now they use the present tactic of remand, false charges, hold you in prison for a tag, put you in a small charge, offer you bail with horrendous conditions, tag, don't live at home. They do all this, it's just their way of changing it. Now just imagine how you'd feel at 3:30 in the morning, your front door being kicked in, being dragged out of your bed, wives and mothers and children screaming, women being brutalised, children being abused and brutalised and dragged away and in prison for up to 4 years, in fact the case is over 4 years. And this is what went on in this 6 occupied counties in 1971. It wasn't the first time Britain has used internment in Ireland. They used it in the 40s, the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, the 20s. In actual fact, if you go back as far as Anne Devlin in 1803, Anne Devlin was imprisoned in Kilmainham for 2.5 years without a charge, as were most of her family. So, Britain and internment ranks here in Ireland. It's a punishment on it, and as I say, they just changed the name. It's not internment now, it's remand, it's charges, and you're held in prison at the same time. So as I say, they kicked in front doors, they come in, they dragged men from their beds. As I say, children were screaming, terrorised, women were abused, and they tried that. Not that long after that, they saw the women took up the part that the men were playing, so they started to intern the women as well. So as I say, at that time they arrested 340 men on the morning of internment, and they selected out at that stage 12 was, and later on a further 2 for what they called what was become known as the Hooded Treatment in-depth interrogation. And we were basically guinea pigs to see what they could get from this that they could use at a later date to break prisoners, to break civilians, anybody they could get that they thought you could get information out of. And they still used it. They were taken to court. The European Commission found them guilty of torture. The Brits appealed that and took it to the European Court, and that result a verdict of degrading and inhumane treatment. I was there, believe you me, it was torture. People say they used the 5 techniques on us, they also used the 6th technique on us, which was just simply to knock the bollocks out of us.
Sorry for laughing.
The British government, I didn't think it was funny either, really. The British government then declared that the 5 techniques were illegal. So they just reverted back to their old tactic and they just used the number 6 on every prisoner that was arrested thereafter. And I don't think there was a man that went into the cages in Long Cash or the blacks that didn't get a damn good kicking, battering before he went in. And again, they were holding him up for 7 days for this. So, as I say, I fortunately only stayed in Long Cash for 6 months, but Kevin here stayed a lot longer. And as I pointed out, Kevin was there, he went through the hooded treatment. He was there when it was changed from internment to detainee. He was there when they changed it from Long Cash to the maze. He was also one of the men, I don't know whether I should say it or not, but he was actually one of the men guilty of burning the place. And they can't use that against you, by the way. So I'll just hand you over to Kevin now, and Kevin, you give his experience. Kevin was also, by the way, one of the longest, I think it was 4 internees that were held from the start to the very last. Kevin was one of the 4 men that spent the longest period of internment that there was. So I'll give you over to Kevin now, and Kevin will give you a brief rundown on his experiences.
Well, I also was arrested on what became known as internment morning. I was arrested in the Lower Falls area in Marion Street. I was taken to Mulhouse Street Barracks. And regarding the hooded treatment, I think the process of the torture started at that very point. I was arrested with a friend of mine who would be good to him, Billy Reid, which I'm sure a lot of people here would know.
Yeah.
And Billy died of cancer 8 years ago now. But in the whole process from the minute of my arrest, as far as I'm concerned, regarding the hooded treatment, that was what became known as the softening up period. I was transported from there to Gerwood Barrack, and my time in Gerwood Barrack was very short because I was taken along with 6 other men, and we were played with to a degree in the sense that we were thrown in and out of helicopters, which the first time was bad enough in the sense that we were, the choppers lifted into the air, and we didn't know how long or where or far up they were, and the compression doors opened. I was at the front, sitting at I was on the floor, I wasn't sitting, I was lying actually, and a military cap put his foot to me and pushed me out. And this went on. It was a repetitive thing for 3-4 times. I was then taken what was known as an obstacle course, and I was severely beaten by lines of British soldiers on each side of this course. The course consisted of barbed wire, broken glass, brick, etc. I was trailed the length of it, which was from Gerwood in through the back wall of the prison, which there had been a hole put into, and taken down into Belfast prison. I was taken at that stage to, I didn't know at the time, D3. And arriving in D3, I was in a terrible state. I was badly busted, my nose was broke, I was just in a state. I was thrown into the cell. I was that badly battered, I couldn't get off the floor. And there was a man then shortly after I was in it, came in by the name of Sean McPhillips. And Sean was a member of the official IRA. And he started to attend me. The still was like busting the blood and all. He had tried to clean it off and help me onto the bottom bunk of and I was there for a period of time. I know it was just before dawn was breaking, and the doors opened and I was taken back with the same viciousness back across the obstacle course, battered and beaten, and I was taken into the corridor of Gerwood Barrack, where I met Francie. whom I knew, and there was other men there. I knew Joe Clark, and Francie and I finished up handcuffed to each other, along with
Hooded too.
other men, and we were hooded. And that was the start of what became known as the treatment. The whole cycle lasted, I think, a period of 12 days. Now, not the actual hooding treatment. That was 9 days, 9 days, 9 nights. And like Francie, I don't think there's words in any language that could describe it. But from my point, as far as I'm concerned, it was such a place as hell. I've been there and back again. We were taken then back after that process, like of the 12-day cycle. We finished up back in Belfast prison where internment started. After a period of time in Belfast prison, we were transferred to Long Cash. I think it was in around the Christmas.
No, it was end of October, start of November, I think.
Yeah, we were taken to Long Cash. We were on the second arrivals. There was men taken before us, and we were taken by chopper to Long Cash, and that's when the internment period started.
That chopper by the way was helicopter. I was even born yet.
And on arriving in Long Cash, it was completely new to us. We both were members of the Republican movement, and the first thing that we sought out was the movement functional within the prison, which it was. Between one thing and another, I finished up on the prison staff. The internment, Francie escaped.
You'd have left too, you'd have been sitting above him for 6 months.
They said enough. So Francie was the first escapee. Left the prison as Father McGuigan, went out the front gates. And there's a very funny story to this. On our arrival at the prison, we were individually, all of us, all those that went in, was taken to the governor, where he read your rights as a prisoner. And Francie in this process asked the governor, what's the best, at the finish of him reading you your rights, he asked, was there anything you'd like to ask? And Francie says, yes, what's the best way out of here? And he said, through the front gates. Right, which a short time later, Francie went through the front gates. Was found on his release, he sent a postcard to Governor Trump, thanking for the information. But there, so the internment end of it, it was a cat and mouse game. It's what they could do. It was more a psychological thing. Although we had constant British raids, they constantly destroyed our stuff, stole our stuff. They would have raised you from your bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and put you against the wire, and you could have stood there for hour upon hour upon hour on spreads on again the wires. I was fortunate that at that stage of my life I was very young. I was also fortunate that I had come into the movement in the early 60s, and I had that behind me. There was men there who didn't have that experience of the movement and didn't know what to expect, and found themselves in the prisons, not just Long Cash. And I believe that those early days with me, those sort of 8 years anyway, before gave me a head start, you know. The men who paid a big price was the elderly men. We had internees from the 40 period, 50 period in with us. Some of them in bad health, and there was no mercy at any time shown to any of them. Like, they got the same as what everybody else got during these raids. And this process went on. It was a psychological war that was going on. One example would be if a man had a sick child at home, and his wife, through the letters, you had a letter a day informed him of the illness of the child, and was expecting the doctor, etc. Or indeed, worst cases where elderly parents were about to die, for instance, which happened in a few that I'm aware of, in several cases. All of a sudden the letter stopped, but they were censored to a point that you couldn't read them. That was to say what the doctor had said. And visits was messed about, all the usual things that they were up to. It was psychological at that stage concerning everything, like parcels, visits, etc. It was just unbelievable, like, and that. But if you were fortunate to see this, it gave you a chance of survival. And those who didn't, weren't. We all know from our experiences it had an awful effect on men that didn't see this psychological war going on between us and them, you know. But anyway, the visits start to become real bad, whereas they were actually taking the nappies of children and searching the children. Women in particular were getting terrible searches coming in and visits. With the whole internal thing within the prison and with what was going on with our visitors, it was time to do something. We, as internees, were under the direct rule, and as Irish Republicans, of the prison, the sentenced OC, which we had our own staff and our own bat staff, and we had the cage staff of each cage. We took our direct orders from the sentenced OC. We had the hunger strike of 72, where Billy McKee led that hunger strike, and indeed was anointed, almost lost his life for political status, which he won, which brought a big change for them. Nothing really changed for us, because us not being sentenced, you know, we could receive parcels daily, we could receive letters daily, we wore our own clothes, etc. So it was a big change for them. But with all the whole thing going on, they were taking serious action within the prison. And the word come from the top to bottom, from what we call the top, was the sentence then. I was fortunate that I was on the bat staff in the prison. Fortunate or unfortunate, the word come to me. Well, to pass the word. So the camp burned. The internees didn't burn. Some of the cages, parts of them survived. Our cage was burned to the ground, cage 22. We were bordered on the wires of the sentencing, so we were able to make our way up into the sentencing. And I was there when the Brits dropped the gas. And this gas that they dropped, it was sea hard gas. It had a terrible effect, and I do believe that it's led to premature deaths. With no doubt about that, absolutely no doubt about that. That's how it went. The prison was rebuilt. The first cages, I think it was January or the end of December, 74, cage 7, and we happened to be moved up into it. To describe the conditions between October and come back to that cage, it was just in the middle of a field, and we had nothing.
The corrugated sheets just was about.
Yeah, corrugated. Some men dug what was called rabbit burrows, and they lived in them. 5 or 6 men got into the barrow, like, and it was a hole in the ground, right? And a corrugated sheet. There was a problem because if anybody wanted to use the toilet, and if they were up at the top end, you know, that was a serious problem. Plus, you can picture 6 men that hadn't washed, or hadn't been able to wash from the month of October as the days went on, all together. I choose to sleep. I choose to sleep between 2 corrugated sheets. Was did all in there. And what you done was you got a few brick from the base of the huts that had been burned, and you laid them up at the, and you put the corrugated sheet on it that it was, so it meant if it rained or snowed, which it don't seem to do daily, it run down, the water would have run down through it. And it was through pure exhaustion you had to lay down. And you lay on it and you pulled the other sheet up over you. Right? I can recall one winter's morning waking, and we all had beards. You know, it wasn't, and those days I had hair. But we all had beards, because there was no washing facilities, you know. And I can remember one morning evening, and I had icicles in the beard. That's just part of the whole. My memories of it all was the hunger and the cold. Youth was in my side. Again, you had men there like John O'Rourke, Jimmy Rowe, etc., who were men who had been through the prisons in the 40s and 50s, and weren't in the best of health. And looking back on that, their main concern was us. It's, which, and I don't know how they survived it. I really don't. I seriously don't know how they survived it. And I've come to the conclusion, and as I did at the time, that there were men set apart. There are different breed of men that we would have had even in my time, and certainly a different breed of men that you have today. They were harder to play and very committed. And that went on, and till internment ended. You could obviously write a book about it and talk about it the year that, but that was basically it. There's one other point I'd like to make. There were some men had been in and out on 2, 3 occasions, and I had such a friend who was there for 3. He was interned on 3 occasions. He had been turned, released, and interned again. A lot of the name of Dermot Reynolds come from this very area here at Clonard. And on his first arrest, I think my number was 80 something when I was arrested, to give you a number, which I never used that. But mine was 80 something. And Dermot Reynolds came in after me, and he was 100 and say 80 something. And on his last arrest, he was 7,040 something, which meant, in effect, that there was 7,000 men had gone through internment.
Some of them maybe 2 or 3 times. It would have been 7,000 in total, but a man in 2 or 3 times, and that's just the numbers around. So they had interned, and they had interned Irish people here in the occupied 620s here on 7,000 occasions.
And 7,000 okay, because see, as a man came in, he got the number, it was just added to the number of the last man, the man before him, you know. And that's the way it was. And basically, I'd say, if any questions, that's all I'd have to say.
Just one question I'd ask you, Kevin. See, when you were being interrogated for those 12 days, and obviously being brought up in the chopper and all this sort of thing, did you think at any time, or did you think, oh, something you were going to kill?
Yeah, if I could just explain that. I had, in the 60s, I had read about the British occupation of Eden. I had read about where they'd taken political suspects, and they had tied a rope to their legs and tied it to the chopper. They flew them out to the sea, and they kept dipping them in and out of the water, and then out of the water, and then out of the water. But the result that a lot of them had died. It was the Black Watch Regiment that was guilty of this, and the colonel in charge of them was a colonel by the name of, he had the nickname of Mad Mitch. We also had a Mad Mitch.
Finished up at Tory MP.
And he finished up at Tory MP. And if they died during that process, they just cut the rope off and left them in the sea. So I was very aware of what the British were capable of. And I was fortunate to be reared in a Republican household, just like yourself, and indeed like quite a few of us here. And I had heard from a child at the fireside the stories of the 40s men, they escaped from Derry prison, to break out from Crumlin Road prison, the beatings that was handed out. So, and I also was fortunate that I had come into the Republican movement at the age of 16 from the famine. And was very aware of it all. I knew from the day I that I came into the Republican movement that the movement itself had nothing to offer me, only death, hardship and imprisonment. So I was aware of that. Wasn't expecting, when you're young like that, you think it's going to happen to somebody else. You don't think that it's going to happen to you, you know. But I was aware of all that, and I never thought for 1 minute that they wouldn't have shot me. In fact, I was very surprised to find myself back in Belfast prison because of what they had done. No words could describe what happened to us, you know. I can look at Francie, and he can look at me, and we know. I can look at any of the other hooded men. 3 of our comrades died. There was Mickey Montgomery, Sean McKenna, and Pat Shivers. Died due to that treatment. Other men had psychological problems where they finished up in terrible states. Thank God most of them's over it. Although I think that all Republicans is half bats anyway. But, so no, I was more shocked that they didn't take our lives. So,
I like to add that, and just talking to the other lads, and that there was none of us actually believed we were going to be released out and back in the jail or whatever the case may be. Because we believe that there's no way the Brits are going to allow us to go out and tell the world what has happened to us, you know. And I think in that aspect there, it actually backfired in the Brits to a certain extent. Because remember when they got the verdict of degrading and inhumane treatment, the British legal pundit were there went, yes, you know, they had taken this away now, and we're trying to take the case back to Europe again to get that decision reversed because of new information. It's now actually come out. There was a documentary in RTE there recently where there's papers of government ministers saying that it was torture. Because one of the things we want to stop, not only on the Irish nation, but throughout the world we'd like it stopped, because America has actually turned around and used Britain's result, is the way I call it, that this isn't torture, it's degrading and inhumane treatment. The European court has decided so. And as I say, the tactics that you used on us, we were used as guinea pigs, and you'll see there from Abu Dhabi and Guantanamo Bay that they're using the same things, just slight changes to it, but they're doing the same damn thing all over again on people throughout the world today. And I think we as Republicans, we've come to expect that, and unfortunately, to a certain extent, accept it as part of our way of being. Like, we expect to be tortured, we expect to be in prison, you know, and it's wrong that we hold these views and attitudes, but unfortunately we have. And as Kevin says, I, like Kevin, joined the Republican movement way back in the early 60s, and you got the jail stories. And I remember a great friend of both of ours here, and some of the people here, McGart, great storyteller and great singer and great camaraderie with him. And we used to go to McGart's house at night there, and McGart would sit and tell jail stories, you see, and he made them sound good. I remember telling the story about the time they found a tunnel in 57 in the Crum, and they came in, and the A specials came in and battered hell out of them all. And McGart's telling this story, and we were all sitting laughing. Because it was the way he described this man coming in, and McGart said, the hair's in the back, you needed a hairbrush to brush them, you know, and he told the story so well that I remember leaving and walking back up to our down with another volunteer at the time, and he says, it must be great to be in jail. You know? And I remember meeting him walking around the yard in the Crum, and he says, if I keep my hand on that fucker, McGart was crying. But we have come to accept these things that are wrong. You know, it's wrong that we as the Irish people still put up with Britain deciding what happens. And as I said earlier on about Windscale, Sellafield, delays from long cash, internment, detention, no Special Powers Act, Anti-Terrorism Act, you know, no Castlereagh, Antrim Holden Suite, and they tell us things have changed. Things have changed. The only thing that's done well changed is the name. They just changed the name, but they carry on with the same policies that they've been bringing in, year out. For 800 years, as they say, we can go back as far as Anne Gavin being interned in 1803. You know, and I think as Republicans are going to have to get to the stage the Irish people are going to have to come to the stage where we won't accept it anymore. But unfortunately we do. As I say, like, we had it in Stevens among the latest cases where he's in the jail there and he's charged on ridiculous stupid charges, but they know they haven't. They want him out of the way, so they bring him in, they charge him, they offer him bail, but they tell him the conditions are worse than being in prison. So he stays in prison. And this suits Britain. They want you offside to get you offside by whatever means they want. But as regards Pat's question there about how did we free? I remember doubly convinced to see that they're not going to release us. There's no way I'm getting out of here alive because they're going to be found lying in the street, just shot during the troubles. Because on the first day or first 2 days in Girdwood Barracks, we could hear the explosions and the shooting going on outside. And I remember at one stage during the interrogations, this was the only time the hood came off your head for interrogation, and they lifted up to here and saying, "You're from Ardoyne, aren't you?" Aye. One of them, "You're from Ardoyne, aren't you?" He says, "Aye. There was an explosion in Jamaica Street, I think it was, and there's about 70 odd dead. I lived in Jamaica Street." And they sort of believed him because they'd heard explosions prior to being taken away and had heard the shooting and that. So we expect this to be found somewhere down on the side of the street, as it happened to Irishmen throughout our history. You know, just till they finish with dumpy. So it's an experience, unfortunately, as I say, they just used the 6 technique on the boys after they've done away with what they call the 5 techniques, just use number 6 on everybody that come in. And believe you me, I sometimes think maybe we got the soft end of it when I heard what happened to some of the lads thereafter. You know, so.
If I could just say one more thing.
Women can talk.
I think this is fairly right. You see, we see ourselves purely as statistics. We're just, you know, part of, and we're the lucky ones, the fact that we're sitting here. And as Francie just pointed out there, which, I mean, I seen men, there was one man come in, 2 men actually came in from California, but one in particular, where they had rolled them in barbed wire, and they'd taken them to the boat, down to the Maidstone, and the governor refused to take them. And the governor of the prison at the time, Belfast prison, the Crummer Road, refused to take him. And he finished up in the Manor Hospital, as did his friend. You know, like, some of the things that we've seen was just totally unbelievable. So we're really the lucky ones, and we're just a statistic, you know. If you take the massacre, the blatant murder that happened in Derry, the blatant murders that went on in Ballinworthy, the shooting dead of children, etc., etc. You know, until England, we all know this, that's why we're all here, till England is removed from this soil, there'll never be a justice with peace till we, the Irish people, establish our own government.
Thanks very much, Francie. Thanks very much, Kevin. It's very interesting. Ansel, you want to?
I feel very humble coming after that there, really, you know, because I didn't experience any of those things. We didn't, our family was not a Republican family. We don't have had anybody that was in the IRA or in any part of the Republican movement at all. We became Republicans, and I wouldn't even say it was Republicans in what we know Republicanism is now, in relation to the proclamation and James Connolly and Patrick Pearson and all of that. I hadn't a clue who those boys were. It took me many years to find out. I was, I suppose, an idealist who was responding to the times that we were living in, and reacting to them, and the brutality and the murder and the burning of peoples out of their homes in 69 and 70. And I was young and very impressionable and very angry. I can say that, angry at all of those things. And I think, you know, that the only people out there that we felt would protect us, in a sense, from the British Army and all of the brutality that they were imposing on the Irish people at that time was the IRA. So because of the times we're living in, I'll say that I joined the Republican movement in those days as a young girl. There was a reorganisation, more John knows well there, called Common Gillini, and that was the equivalent of the Fianna, if you like. But it wasn't anything to do with republicanism, I have to say, at that time, because it was a reaction to what was happening. So really, when internment broke out, and it was called Operation Demetrius, in the 9th of August 1971, they arrested, I think, that morning, 342 Catholic men, not Republicans by any shape or form, some Republicans, some civil rights activists, some just ordinary people that were running off a list of old names, you know, people that possibly were Republican, as the older men, as the fellas have said here. And they were scooped, you know, a lot of the leadership of the IRA at that time had got word that there was going to be raids, and they weren't at home that morning. So there was no real damage done to the IRA at that time. Francie, would you agree?
No, very selected. A lot of the people arrested were on the fringes of the Republican movement. I remember one lad meeting Brian Faulkner, an ex-attorney met Brian Faulkner, and he asked him, why did you intern me? And Faulkner said, I interned 3 types of people. He says, I interned terrorists, IRA men. I interned the people that give them support and back them up, and I interned the people that protested against them. He says, put yourself into whichever category suits.
You know, it's interesting to know that throughout internment, which lasted from 1971 to 75, there was 1,874 Catholic stroke Republicans interned. And not until February of 1973, I think it was, there was the first Protestants were interned, and the total of them interned was 107. So it's interesting, you know, to sort of have those statistics. But to get back to my own story there, our house was first raided. I was 15 my younger sister Eileen was 13, and Michael was 4 years older, and Claire. There was just the 4 of us in the house, and the Brits come as they always do. 4 o'clock in the morning, you're up, can't even find where your bra is at that time in the morning, never mind anything else. So, you know, the house was up, and we were all kind of, this was our first experience of a raid, if you like. And I remember my wee sister thinking that they were coming for me and Michael, and she says to me, it was funny, you know, if they take you, I'll go with you. I'll go with you, I'll not let you go on your own. And I said, no problem, no problem. But actually the first person they took was Michael and Eileen, and she was only 13. And she says, you come. And I says,
See you later.
I said, they're not taking me out. But I remember getting out the door and they're looking at me, and I was so frightened. She was only 13, you know. You forget, you know, we were thrown into this adult life, if you like, and she was only 13. And I remember looking at me with the big eyes and the wee haircut, and I said to her, you're like, kill you. She was going out, and I was gesticulating to her all the time, don't you open your mouth, don't say anything. And she was going, but anyway, they took Michael and Eileen down to Springfield Road Barracks at the time, and then they sent another Saracen back, and they took me in that one. And at that time, we lived next door to Granny and Grandad Cahill, to Cahill's parents, and she was a wee feisty wee woman. Anybody who knows Granny Cahill would know that. And she was screaming blue murder out of the bedroom window as they were taking us one by one out. Yous English bastards, yous bastards, they're taking this wee family all away. Get out of your beds, they're taking this wee Nelson family all away. She was screaming this out of the windows, and she had a lid of a pot. She was banging the wall out, screaming out of her bedroom window. But then they came back and they took Claire. So that was the whole 4 of us arrested. That was my experience. And when we went to Springfield Road Barracks, I heard my brother, he's at the back there, being battered, and you could hear them kicking him and ripping him to pieces, as the lads would say, down there. And of course I was very hot-blooded in those days, and I was remonstrating with the Brits in the room and all of that there, and they took me and separated me from the two sisters. And I remember there was this military policewoman sitting on the table in her red berry and all the rest of it, and she just kept chewing gum and making a noise, and that, you know, turned to me, like, and she was singing reggae, 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 here comes Johnny Reggae, and she was just saying it over and over and over again. And it was, I remember screaming at the Brits, have you heard my brother call, I'll shoot you bastards when I get out of here. And I did say things like that to them, you know, and they killed Michael, and they perforated his eardrums and pulled his hair out by the roots and stuff like that, you know. But someone went and told my sister, who was 7 months pregnant at the time, she lived in Donegal Road. We were interrogated by Harry Taylor and Samuel George McKinney. These are names that are quite common to anybody in those times. Marlene came down, and as I say, I was in the room with this. They called them coffee pots. I don't know why they called them coffee pots, the military police, but that's how they referred to them over military radios, the coffee pot. So I was sitting swinging on a chair with my feet in a desk, because I was just very antagonistic towards them. I resented being there, and they had made fun of me all the way down, because when you're out of your bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's freezing cold, and you do shake involuntarily, even if you're as hard as nails, you do shake, your knees were going like dinger, and they were making fun of me, and I was putting my hands on my knees. I was so angry that my knees were shaking, you know, that kind of way, and I thought to myself, bloody legs. But while we were there, they were raiding the house, took everything, all of our photographic albums. They took all of the hankies we received from comrades in Long-Cash, and all the Irish sort of stuff like that. They took it. We never got it back. We were naive enough, we didn't know we could ask for it back. So we have no photograph albums of any of us as children, or first communions, or confirmations, or anything like that. There is no photographs of us. And I was a good looking child, I have to tell you, so I was a bit annoyed about that, but
You're still good looking.
But that was our experience. Michael, of course, was taken from there to Hollywood, where they continued to feed him over numbers of days, and then interned him and took him to Long-Cash. Harry Taylor told my older sister, Mary, that they were considering getting social services involved and taking me into care, because I was knocking about with a brat crowd. And anyway, they let me out. So maybe I then sort of, with all of that youth and pent up anger and no fear as well, sort of went deeper into the Republican movement, if one could say that. And when I was kind of 16, I suppose because our Michael wasn't there to keep an eye on me and stop me from my activities, but I had to go on a term that is used commonly now as an OTR, but I had no letter, I have to tell you that as well. And so I was staying in a house in Rodney at the time with a woman and her 2 wee babies when the Brits kicked in the door, and that was in 1973. And they arrested me, but during that time they were very abusive, as they were to Irish women and to anybody whose house they were raiding. And she was holding her wee baby in her arms, and they were threatening to stick the rifle in its private area, and they used very foul language to describe that, which I'll not repeat. And they trailed me out and took me down to Town Hall Street, it was at that time. I was 17 years of age, but had a very sort of cheeky attitude, I suppose, and I wasn't beaten anyway, I have to say I wasn't, but there was a wee cop down there in Town Hall Street, his name was George, and it's funny the way you remember things. He was quite kind to me in those times, because he kept saying, they've made a mistake with you, love, they've made a mistake with you, and I of course says, of course they have, of course there must be somebody out there that is saying. And but he used to give me a cigarette, and the photograph that you'd see on the internment posters was the one that they took of me in Town Hall Street with my number under my chin and my long hair, and Liz McKee on the poster looks like a model, and I look like a a convict, you know, but during that time Michael had been interned and released again, and then he was in actually in the Crumb at this stage for robbing a bank. You were a bad boy, Michael, and he was in there, and he didn't know that I was held for the 90 hours. During that 90 hours, I have to say that I was menstruating, if I can say that, and they wouldn't give me any protection at that time, so I felt vulnerable, if you like, and they were threatening to come down and rape you. He was gay and son with George McKinney. He was a brutal man. They were showing photographs of some of your comrades that had lost their lives, either being blown up in their own bombs. And it's hard, we see when we look at the programmes now on Gaza and those obscene photographs that we look at of those wee children and all of that, you know, it was the same thing, and they're saying you will end up being scooped off the road in a black plastic bag and stuff like that. And I suppose I was strong, even though I was 17 years of age. I was kind of strong and took it anyway, as you do, because as the lads have said here, you know, when you joined the Republican movement, you were promised two things: death or jail, and that was the way. And so you had that attitude anyway. So Michael, of course, wasn't aware at that time that I was arrested. And I was facing the gents' toilets in Town Hall Street on the day that he was going to be up for court. And during the interrogation that went on for the 90 hours, I was very strong and cheeky and giving them all the cheek that I could, and all of the nonsense that you do go through at these times. But I was looking out through the wee spy hole into the gents' toilets, and I wasn't being perverted in any shape or form, but I was hoping that when he came from the Crumb, that I might see him get in and whatever, and as it happens, that's exactly what had happened. And it's funny, I can never forget the feeling of it, because you were so brave up to then, and you would take all what they're giving up, you big grown men, shouting at you and abusing you and all of that there. And when I looked out and seen my brother, I was like a child again, you know. It was so funny because I shouted his name out through the spy hole. And he says, "Who is that? Who is it?" And I says, "It's me, Michael. I go to our mother." And I was in here, he's, what? And you've been here for 90 hours. And there was this big brave woman, you know, all of a sudden was crumbled to a wee girl just because she'd seen her brother. And the two of us were very emotional. And George, the wee cop, who was a nice guy, I have to give him his place, he was a nice guy. Well, what happened was, Michael went into court and he got up in the dock and said that his youngest sister was facing the gents' toilets in Town Hall Street, and he wanted her moved immediately. So they did, they came in and moved him, they put him in the cell. So in the cells in Town Hall Street, you have the wee spy hole there, but at the bottom you have about 6 inches of bars where you can lie on your stomach and see out. And so we both of us lay on our stomachs and spoke to each other before he went to the Crumb and I went up to Armagh jail. And I wasn't too worried, because I knew that when I got to Armagh there'd be a lot of girls there that I knew, because the Republican family all know each other, you know, over the years, and you've worked with each other and you've went to areas and all of that. But I wasn't too worried about getting in there. And I mean, again, you know, when I think back, those girls who were there before me must have thought I was wired up to the moon, because the first thing I did was walk up the wing and I says, "Right, who's on this escape committee, because I'm getting out of here." They were all saying, "Oh, another one was Egypt, so think she's going to get out overnight, you know." But when we went to Armagh, there, you know, the cells, you all know the size of the cell, they are what they are, and you have a bed, you have a locker, and you've just the comradeship of the female prisoners, which was fantastic. And you'll never forget that, you know, it's like being sisters all together, and that comradeship is something that lasts with you for your lifetime, you know. And you know, you've this big wardrobe of different clothes for your visits, you know, because you'd have borrowed her clothes or her clothes or her clothes, because you'd have just shared them all around, you know, if you ever had a visit and whatever, and it was good. I think what bothered me, you know, when some of these ones that were in jail later, where they have their toilets and their showers, and the easy life prison, as I call it, you know.
Usually for the end.
And he had this plastic pole with a lid on it, and I swear, coming up the lockup, I used to go, "Oh my God, go to the toilet, please go to the toilet, go to the toilet." And you know, because that was one of the things I had a major problem with was using that potty in the cell at night, and being females at times of the month and all of that there, you know, we might have been IRA women, but you know, we were still, you know, had your manners and you were advanced by things and all of that there, but you know, it was stupidly things like that used to annoy you, but the comment, when we lived in there, the internees, you see, females only started to be interns in January of 1973, and there was nowhere for them, and you know, by the time I went in, I was number 6, and hadn't anywhere, and hadn't thought it through where we're going to put these women, and what part of the jail. There was a place for remand prisoners, there was a place for sentenced prisoners, but there was nowhere for these new internees, so they just put us in with the sentenced prisoners. We had the political status at that time, and so there was great, as I say, comradeship, and we all got on. We sing songs, we used to sing out the cells at night, and all of the usual things, you know, and that was the only thing that really bothered me was the potty business. It was also very hard, if any of the girls, and there were several who lost members of their family whilst they were in prison, more being one of them when her mother was murdered, but there was also, when you heard that there was men shot, and you're thinking, who is it, and you're bound to know them because they're Republicans in the area that they're coming, and if you heard those footsteps after lock-up at 8 o'clock at night, you knew this was bad news of one shape or form, and you were just holding your breath. You held your breath to see whose cell did they stop at, and then you're just holding to see, or they would go and get Eileen Hickey, who was an OC at the wing, out of her cell, and you knew, oh Jesus, this is bad news for someone, this is bad news for someone. And they would go maybe to Clef Mulvena, it was where her brother was shot dead, along with Jim Bryson and that, and all you heard then was this wailing, and Jesus, it still would get me to this day, how the sound of that, you know, and you couldn't do anything about it for them, you know, but really, the next day you went to them, you hugged them, you stayed with them. Maura can attest to this, that it was her sisters within the jail who brought them through it, who gave them the comfort that they could cope with that, losing a brother or a father or a mother or any of those things. But it's funny, that noise I never can forget, you know, that wailing when some of them screamed when they got told their brother was shot dead or something like that. It was hard, you know. But the other thing was, because I heard the lads talking about it, the burning of Longkesh, which was in October 74. I was still in at that time, and the word came out that the lads had burnt the cache. Now we had all brothers, cousins, uncles, daddies, relatives all in. So your heart was in your mouth. You were distracted. Were they all right? Were they alive? They put a block on the news coming out. Didn't inform you of the degree of the injuries of the men. You knew that there was gas being fired on them. That stuff like that. And you couldn't get any real news of any shape or form to let you know the condition of the men in the cache. And we were like this, you know, because we were young women, you know. 17, 18, 19, Eileen Hickey, God love her, you know, when I think back, we thought she was older, but she was only 24, 25, you know, she was the OC, I was on the prison staff at that time myself, and, you know, I says to her, we'll have to do something, we need to do something in response to what's happened in the case, to show our support for the men, and all of that, and the idea was that we would just wreck the jail, and whatever, and happened that Hugh Cunningham, and he was the governor of Armagh at that time, was coming up the wing with 2 of the screws in the head, prison officer as well, and of course seeing an opportunity, I went into Eileen Hickey and said to her at that time, hostages is a good idea, and she says no. Her fear was that they would come in, the Brits, and they'd beat young girls up, and it would be bad, you know, and I says, look, you know, I remember we had a staff meeting in that few minutes to take the decision. We had already taken the decision that we were going to wreck the jail, but to get the hostages, you know, would have been brilliant. It would have just raised the roof and the morale of the lads, and also highlighted what was going on in prison. And so anyway, we kind of agreed, and there was three of us, Brady McMahon, myself and Big Ray Baldy, who was a big girl. I'm 5'3", she was much taller than me, wasn't she? She had mad ginger hair, you know, she was scary. She was scary, even the lady I knew, she was my friend. But, so Hugh Cunningham got up, like the only thing we had at that time was a Stanley knife, really. And he was 6'3", now you picture that man, he was a whole foot bigger than me. And so, of course, at that stage, I just went up to him and says to him, look, we're taking you hostage, and if you resist, I'm going to cut your throat. And he says, and I was thinking to myself, I'd have to jump up. Because once you say it, you have to follow through, right? So anyway, he just turned around and says, okay, Angela, and he gave me the keys, and we escorted him to cell and locked him up. We treated him with respect because we were Republicans, and the act that we were doing was a Republican act. It wasn't funny. It was funny, like I have to say. It was great. I was running about with a big bunch of keys. I thought it was great, you know. And I used to say to them, if you need to go to the bathroom, ring the bell and escort you to the toilet. And then you go, I can't believe that. So it was very funny, you know, because it actually was Margaret Shannon's birthday that day, and her parents, her mummy was coming up with birthday cake to visit her, and she, well, obviously when we took up with the prison, we barricaded ourselves in, and all the rest of it, they couldn't. Imagine that's the man taking the video. His phone went off.
Is it right?
Naughty step for you. So, Margaret's parents were coming up with birthday presents and stuff of that nature, you know, and couldn't get in, there was no visit. So they went round to the side of Armagh Jail where there's the hill up, and went up, and they were standing. It was so funny because we were like feeling so revolutionary and soldiers and strong, and we'd taken over the Armagh Jail, and we'd blocked ourselves in, and we'd hostages, and we were feeling very sort of strong women and soldiers, and the next thing we looked out the cell, and there was Margaret Shannon's family standing with the lit birthday candles and singing happy birthday through the world. She was mortified. She got her hands on her belly, she had around her neck, and she was saying, she was nearly going to shout at them, get that kid away, you know, because how embarrassing, you know, soldier that and mommy's starting her happy birthday. But there was wee funny things like that there, you know, but Armagh Jail wasn't bad. I have to say I did my time all right, and luckily I'd not been one of the ones that did my time all right. Internment ended in December 1975, as they call it, internment, and it ended in 1975. I was in a second time. I was released in 1975 after 2 years internment, and I was rearrested in 1976. And we were in jail, and at that time there was no political status because of they withdrew political status, and everybody knows about Kieran Nugent and all of that there. So it was a whole different ball game then, because we had political status when I was an internee, and therefore that meant that we looked after our own wing, we cleaned our wing, we had our own command structure, we had A Company Armagh Jail, there was OCs, adjuvants right through the whole structure of the movement, and we looked after ourselves. The only thing we didn't do was cook. There was Borstal boys in Armagh Jail at that time, and there was very few wee Catholic Borstal boys, you know, but the Borstal boys used to cook the food and send it over to the wing for us to eat. And some of our wee Catholic Borstal boys at that time would say, don't eat the food today. He would do it without, he was like the best ventriloquist that you'd ever seen. Without opening his mouth, they said, don't eat it. And we knew that they had tampered with it, so they might have put ground glass in it, or they might have peed in it, or spat in it, or something like that. So it just went back, you know. But we had good food parcels, because with good family members outside, they used to send you up good food parcels. So you managed with all of that, you know. It wasn't the worst experience of my life, I have to say. I came out of it all right, and as strong as ever. You know, the second time I went in, I think it was more difficult because you had a comparison, if you like, of having political status and the screws basically not bothering you in a sense, because everything went through IRMCC, everything went through the OC at the wing. This time then, they were not recognising us as having any structure. We were criminals, and therefore they set out to do that. And I think they took a wee bit of pleasure in the likes of me, who had been in the first time and probably was cheeky to them, in fact. And in the second time, where they thought, now we can get a wee bit of revenge on that one there. So, but it is what it is. I only spent 9 months in the second time, so and that was that. So that's about it, really.
Brilliant. We'd like to call Stephen now just to fill us in on his experiences and
Yeah,
what they did.
I just have to say it's a bit strange to be sitting here with Kevin, Francie and Angela, and they're talking about being interned, prisoned and tortured in the early 70s, long before I was even born. And now I'm here talking about being interned not too long ago. So it's just a bit strange knowing that, you know, how little things have changed. And Francie pointed out earlier that you can go back to the 1800s with people being tortured. So I'll just give a bit of background to myself and